You always had the edge in the past, Tarek. Jul grunted as their weapons locked, both men straining against each other. But times change. Tarek smirked, his voice calm despite the strain in his arms. The only thing that's changed is that you've grown slower. With a swift movement, Tarek twisted his spear, breaking their deadlock and driving Jul back. But Jul, far from defeated, swung his axe in a brutal counterattack, the blade slicing through the air with deadly precision. Tarek barely dodged in time, rolling away just as the axe embedded itself into the ground where he had stood moments before. The crowd gasped, the tension building with every second. Jul's chest heaved as he yanked his axe free, his eyes burning with determination. "You won't be so lucky next time, brother." Tarek, steadying his breathing, grinned despite the intensity of the fight. "Luck has nothing to do with it." Jul charged forward, his axe raised high, but Tarek was ready. He feinted left, then spun to the right, thrusting his spear at Jul's exposed side. But Jul, quicker than expected, twisted his body at the last second, deflecting the blow with his axe handle and retaliating with a heavy swing toward Tarek's midsection. The axe connected, and a loud grunt of pain escaped Tarek's lips as he stumbled back, clutching his side where the blade had grazed him. Blood seeped from the wound, staining his hand crimson. The crowd's cheers faltered, replaced by gasps of concern. "Tarek!" Jul's voice was no longer mocking. His expression shifted to one of concern as he watched his brother stagger. "Get up! We're not finished!" Tarek gritted his teeth, forcing himself to stand despite the pain. His eyes met Jul's, and for a brief moment, there was something unspoken between them. Respect, perhaps? Or simply the bond of two warriors who had faced countless battles together. But Jul shook his head, frustration lining his features. "I didn't strike to kill, brother. Don't make me regret that." Tarek gave a weak smile, his grip tightening on the spear. "You should have aimed better then." With a final burst of strength, Tarek launched himself at Jul, spear aimed true. But the wound slowed him, and Jul easily sidestepped the attack, using the blunt end of his axe to knock Tarek off balance. Tarek fell to the ground, breath coming in ragged gasps, unable to continue the fight. Jul stood over him, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths, his axe still in hand. But instead of delivering the final blow, he threw the axe aside and knelt beside Tarek, grabbing his shoulder. "Stay down, brother. You've proven enough." The leader stepped forward, his expression grave. "Heal him. We need our warriors strong for the future battles to come." Nora saw her chance. She pushed through the crowd and knelt beside Tarek. "I can help," she said, her voice steady but urgent. Jul hesitated, eyeing her warily. "You? You're one of them." "I've already proven myself by healing your men," Nora replied, her tone firm. "Let me save him. I don't need to be one of you to know how to heal." The leader gave a curt nod, signaling Jul to let her work. "Do it, but remember, your life depends on this." With shaking hands, Nora pulled out herbs and plants she had gathered earlier, their potent medicinal properties known only to her people. She crushed them between her fingers, mixing them with water and pressing the poultice against Tarek's wound. As she worked, she whispered an ancient Kravani incantation under her breath, hoping it would strengthen her resolve. The crowd watched in silence, their usual jeers replaced by curiosity. How could a girl from the rival tribe hold such knowledge? Nora's hands moved deftly, and within moments, Tarek's breathing steadied, the bleeding slowing to a halt. Jul, still tense, glanced at the leader. "She's done it." The leader approached, his gaze unreadable. "You've saved him," he acknowledged. "Perhaps there is more to you than we thought." Nora stood, exhaustion creeping into her bones. "I told you. I only wished to help." As the celebration resumed, with drums and chanting filling the air once again, Nora returned to her corner, her heart heavy with mixed emotions. She had earned some respect, but at what cost? The warriors she had healed had slaughtered her people. Yet here she was, bound to them by circumstance, her actions a desperate plea for survival. As the night wore on and the Durumbar continued their full moon rituals, Nora knew that her work was far from over. She had earned her place among them, at least for now, but with her people still prisoners and the leader's gaze ever watchful, she knew that the true test of her strength was yet to come. Just after healing him, Nora began to notice that Tarak was watching her intently. He was the leader's trusted warrior, strong, imposing, and hardened by years of combat. At first, she had paid him no mind. After all, her goal was singular: survival. But in the days following the battle, she began to sense a shift in his gaze. It was no longer one of suspicion or guardedness. He watched her with something softer, something more curious. The Durumbar tribe was infamous for its tightly controlled borders. Escaping the village, even for those who knew the terrain, was a near impossible task. Guards patrolled the perimeter day and night, and the tribe's warriors had the forest mapped out. No one, not even a skilled hunter, could pass the borders without being caught or killed. Only the tribe's warriors could move freely beyond the gates, and even they were subjected to heavy scrutiny when leaving the territory. Nora knew that if she wanted to escape, she would need to win the trust of a warrior like Tarak, someone with the authority and means to cross those borders. After days of watching Nora tend to the wounded with such care and skill, Tarak found himself drawn to her in ways he could not explain. She was unlike any woman he had encountered. Her beauty, though undeniable, was not what captivated him. It was her resilience, her calm strength, the way she seemed to hold her pain inside, masking it behind her healing hands. Nora was striking, with deep, earth-toned eyes that spoke of wisdom beyond her years. Her dark, flowing hair framed her sharp features, and though she had suffered much, there was a quiet determination in her movements. Even under the weight of grief, she exuded an air of grace. Tarak admired her from afar, and soon his admiration turned into something more, a protectiveness, a desire to be close to her. Though she healed the Durumbar warriors, Nora's mind was always on escape. She knew Tarak's growing affection could be her way out. She didn't love him. How could she? He was a warrior from the very tribe that slaughtered her family and friends. But she could sense his interest, and she knew how to use it. Nora began to show subtle signs of reciprocation, nothing too obvious, but just enough to keep Tarak's attention. She smiled more when he approached, thanked him gently when he brought her supplies. She knew she had to be careful. Too much too soon, and he might grow suspicious. But Tarak was not suspicious.